Welcome to Biker Talk and another bike review, this time on that cool 1960 style retro, the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. The Interceptor has proved to be a massive hit for Royal Enfield since it was released in Australia in 2019. And I've had a 2020 model in my favourite colour, Baker Express, on loan for a few weeks, so I'm going to tell you what I like, what I don't like, and let you know if I think the Royal Enfield Interceptor is a good bike for a pie run. I can't go on a pie run because of lockdown, so I thought I'd just cook pies again at home. How about burgers? The Royal Enfield 650 is a platform I'm familiar with as my partner rides a Continental GT, and it's a bike we both love. But there are some key differences between the two, which makes the Interceptor a different kind of bike to ride. It's also a bike that's proved hugely popular all over the world, taking out numerous awards including MCM Retro Bike of the Year in 2019 and 2020 in the UK, Bike Sales Lambs Bike of the Year in 2020 and AMCM Retro Bike of the Year here in Australia also in 2020. That's a pretty amazing achievement if you consider the competition it's up against in those categories. When the Interceptor was first released in 2017, it featured a brand new engine from Royal Enfield, a 650 parallel twin with a 270-degree firing order, a twin cradle tubular steel frame that has been designed by the wizards at Harris Performance, who are the only UK manufacturer to design and develop Grand Prix and World Superbike chassis for both Yamaha and Suzuki. It has an amazing 6-speed gearbox and the engine puts out a respectable 47 brake horsepower at 7,150 RPM with peak torque of 52 Nm at 5,250 RPM. There's a couple of options to get a few more ponies out of the engine, although I have to say in its stock setup there is plenty of power. Suspension is handled by 41mm non-adjustable forks with 110mm of travel and twin coil overshocks on the rear with 88mm of travel that are adjustable for 5 stages of preload. The seat height is a comfortable 804mm and I find that at my height of about 5'10", I can easily get both feet flat on the ground. It has a 13.7 litre fuel tank and a claimed wet weight of 202 kilograms, and it certainly doesn't feel heavy. The tyres are tubed on 18-inch spoked rims with a 320mm single disc on the front and a 240mm disc on the rear with a twin piston bi-brake caliper, and Bosch dual channel ABS is standard. The price in Australia starts at $9,990 for the base colourway models, $10,190 for Baker Express and Ravishing Red paint schemes, and $10,490 for the stunning chrome glitter and dust version. There is no pricing available in Australia yet for the new colourways or when they'll be landing. There is also a comprehensive accessories catalogue from Royal Enfield with fly screens and bar and mirrors, rear racks, sump guards and lots of other items. It's also a bike that is well supported in the aftermarket sector with companies like Tech Bike Parts, S&S and pleasingly in Australia Veric Systems with some really great looking and sounding exhausts. That's an easy one. The 650 parallel twin is an absolute peach of an engine. With the 270-degree firing order, it gives it a great classic sound with a good amount of torque. The Interceptor has a really smooth and linear power delivery right throughout the rev range. The bike sits you up nice and upright and the geometry for me is pretty neutral. I reckon you could pretty much ride this bike all day if it wasn't for that stock seat, but more of that later. It's a really easy bike to ride. It's basic, but that's kind of the point. You point it where you want to go, throttle on and away you go. Squeeze the brakes and the bi-brake calipers pull you up. Nothing fancy, but they do the job. So for me, riding position, power delivery, controls, handling all get a big tick. But the thing I like most about the Interceptor is the looks. It just looks like a motorcycle. It's got vintage aesthetics, beautiful classic tank design, diamond quilted seat, spoked rims and twin clocks. It's a cool bike and the kind of bike you just want to jump on and ride. And if you do buy one, you'll never be short of friends, as pretty much everywhere you pull up, someone wants to come up and talk to you about it. The new range of colours are available in some countries, but not in Australia yet, and I've got to say I love the new colour range, particularly the Ventura Blue taken from the Continental GT and the Mark II. And I'm really pleased to say that my favourite colourway for this bike, the Baker Express, has been retained. So well done Royal Enfield on some really classic colourways, but with a modern touch. This is a bike that will continue to do very well in terms of sales and in my opinion does represent excellent value for money. To be honest, there's not much that I didn't like about the Interceptor. It doesn't have premium electronics and a TFT and fully adjustable suspension, but in my opinion, they're not needed anyway on this bike. Having said that, there are two things that I didn't like about the Interceptor. Firstly, that stock seat. It's okay for a while, but yes, I can confirm it gets hard after an hour or so of riding. So that's the first thing I'd swap out for either a touring seat or one of the aftermarket options. The other thing that I didn't like, but I must admit I did get used to it after a while, was the position of the foot pegs. When I first jumped on the bike, whenever I'd come to a stop, my feet naturally wanted to go exactly where the foot pegs were, which I'm sure made me look a little awkward. It wasn't really a big issue because after riding for a while, I naturally adjusted and I didn't really notice it. So I would say, if you do have this issue, just stick with it because you probably will naturally adjust and get used to it. So all up, it's a pretty short list of things that I didn't like. Some people say, if you want a more highly spec'd bike with more power, then just buy a bigger bike. The other line of thought, and I must admit, I'm firmly in this camp, is that the Interceptor and its cheekier, sportier sibling, the Continental GT, are just ready to be customised. Mostly because of the friendly price point they start at. Royal Enfield have done a great job spending money on the stuff that matters on this bike, the design and development of the gearbox, the engine and the chassis, and have left more cost-effective components on the bike for things that people may want to personalise, like the exhaust and the shocks and the indicators and the lights. So what are the mods that I would like to make if this were my bike? One of the things is the mirrors. I'm a fan of bar end mirrors and there are plenty of great options, including the Royal Enfield branded ones, which I've got on the Continental GT and work really well. And also some great looking mirrors from British company Halcyon, so that's one thing. Another part I'd swap out is the levers. Levers? Levers? Whatever. The Continental GT we have in the garage has aftermarket adjustable levers from Tech Bike Parts, which have a lot more feel and are much more comfortable. So the stock ones would go and some nice CNC ones would be added if it were my bike. An aftermarket exhaust is another thing that I'd put on an Interceptor if I own one, and there are plenty of options on the market. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and now back to the burgers. I think the Interceptor would suit heaps of different types of riders. If it was your only bike, it could do everything. It would make a great second bike if you needed something a bit smaller and more manageable, but that is still a heap of fun to ride. And being learner approved, it's not a bad option for a learner either, although I would say that 650 twin engine does have a little bit of punch, so just take it easy if you're new to riding. This is certainly a bike you could buy as your first bike and never get sick of, and I have to say, it is one of about 5 bikes that's currently on my list as my next bike. If there's one thing I've learned in my many years of riding is that enjoyment doesn't necessarily increase with horsepower. So for me, this is a bike that really hits the sweet spot in terms of performance for real world riding on the street. This is going to come as no surprise, but the answer for me is a resounding yes. If you wanted to buy an Interceptor for a lazy weekend ride with mates, this would be a great option. Where the Interceptor really shines for me is on those twisty country roads. Yes, it will handle highways and freeways if you need to be on them, but if you're anything like me, I found myself looking for the long way home, as I didn't feel I needed to rush on the Interceptor. You could commute on this bike if it were your only bike, and it would do a great job of pretty much any riding you throw at it. Commuting, B roads, twisties and sweeping country roads, even freeways. You're probably not going to do a track day on it, however, I reckon if you did, you'd probably be the coolest cat on the track, but probably not the quickest. I really can't wait to see what Royal Enfield do with this engine in some other bikes. I reviewed the Meteor a few weeks ago, and I love that bike also, and it will be great to see this 650 engine in a bike with the Meteor styling and chassis, and I think if Royal Enfield made it, they would have another hit on their hands. Let me know what you think of the Royal Enfield Interceptor in the comments below. Is it a bike you'd buy? And if so, would it stay stock? Or would you get some mods going? And more importantly, let us know your favourite pie or burger shop that you think would be a worthy destination for my next bike review once this Sydney lockdown is over. Till next time, stay safe and enjoy your next pie run.